So I've been getting a lot of questions on what is 5D? What is the fifth dimension? Now, before I tell you what the fifth dimension is, I want to start by saying a lot of you have already been in the fifth dimension. Not just this year, but for at least a couple of years now. But we haven't known what it is. We don't have a definition to it. We're very familiar with 3D, right? Forwards, backwards, leftwards, rightwards, inward, outward. But now let's talk about 5D in comparison to 3D. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5D. I highly suggest you screenshot this board, because as far as a reference goes, this is as good as it gets. And I'm not going to chew your guys' ear off. Before we start, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to this channel, because we're growing and we're going to share messages just like this, and we're going to share inspiration. Last but not least, throw down a comment if you have any questions, you want to show some love, hit the notification bell so you get these videos fresh off the grill. Now, I hope everyone can read this. I'm sure you can, but let's talk about it here. 3D and 5D consciousness. Okay, first one right here. In 3D, we're more ego-based with our identity, okay? But when we start to evolve to 5D, now we're soul-based. What does that mean? Now I'm doing things to my higher connection. I'm doing things to my soul. I call it my inner being, your God source. So when you sit down and meditate and you connect to above, that's how you're operating. Versus ego. Oh, I want to be the best. I want to be the best in my town, my city. That's ego, okay? So that's the difference right there. So a lot of you guys I know on my channel are soul-based. I can feel it. Okay? Number 2, you have a separation consciousness versus a unity consciousness. Okay? So what does that mean? You're more so using your regular skills, right? Your thoughts, you're thinking a lot, right? Versus unity consciousness, you're taking the subconscious thoughts like we've talked about before, like when you meditate or when you're doing something you love and you get an impulse, right? That is your unity consciousness. When you're forming your actual thoughts with your higher thoughts. So that's the unity. The separation consciousness is just when you're thinking alone, right? So for example, when you think I have to do hard work, I have to do all the hard work to get where I need to be, okay? That's separation consciousness versus unity consciousness, connecting to your source and then flowing, okay? So moving on down, okay? We talked about this, right? Conditional love is 3D versus unconditional love, which is 5D. The big difference with this, when a loved one or anybody does you wrong, you know that they didn't mean to do it. And you give them the benefit of the doubt, because at the end of the day, it's all about love. That's unconditional love. Conditional love. Somebody cuts you off on the freeway. Somebody does something, whether it be a loved one or friend, somebody does something wrong to you, or somebody does something over you. You're mad at them. They're an asshole. They're rude, right? Again, because of that condition, we don't love them. Unconditional love is you love them no matter what. Okay? So moving on down, guys. We're right here. Man believes he's the victim. Okay, this is a big one. When you're pointing the finger and you're saying that, oh, it's because of this I couldn't do this, or oh, I didn't have this so I wasn't able to do this. You can't do that anymore when you're in 5D. When you're in 5D, you start to take accountability for yourself. So man believes in co-creation with his reality. So what does that mean? That means that, let me slow down. That means that whenever I want something, I know that I have the power to create it, especially when I believe in my higher self, when I plant my seed in my faith and I'm 10 toes down, okay? So when you're talking about, again, being a victim, you're pointing the finger. It's not your fault. 5D is when you start taking responsibility for everything around you, because energy is always right. It always matches how you feel, okay? Going down the line, seeing is believing. I love this one, okay? Seeing is believing. That's 3D. 5D, believing is seeing. That's beautiful. You know, less is more for me. So seeing is believing. That's 3D, right? We see the tree. Oh, it must be there. Versus believing is seeing. when we talk about creating our life, when we talk about creating our heaven on earth, right? We believe what we want to see versus what we see, that's all I got, is what I believe, okay? That's the difference between the 3D version and the 5D version, okay? Moving on down, okay? We're going to keep this nice and smooth. Logical thinking. This kind of ties in with separation consciousness, okay? Logical thinking and separation consciousness, okay? When you're just being logical about it, okay? 1 + 1 is 2, okay? Instead of being like that, when you really want to create your world, you have to throw away the logical thinking and you have to go to intuitive thinking, right? Intuitive thinking is, again, tied to unity consciousness. When I'm connected to my source creator above, which is within me, my non-physical God energy, that means that I'm going to be able to intuitively think whenever I'm creating something. Versus right here, when I'm consciously thinking, when I'm logically thinking, I'm only right here. I'm only looking at my 3D reality versus when you're intuitively thinking, you're thinking from within versus using outside to think, if that makes sense. Okay? Moving right along. Let's see where we are. Seeing duality. Okay? So this is also big. We haven't really ever talked about this. When you're separating good and evil, right? When you say, I didn't get that job, that was bad. Or, I didn't get that promotion, or that girlfriend, or that boyfriend, that was bad, right? When really, that's a good thing, because 2 months later, you got a better job. 3 months later, you got a better girlfriend, right? So when you're separating good and evil, right, you're putting yourself into a box. When you're in 5D, right, seeing only the one force, right? So instead of saying that, I was late to, whatever I had to be to, maybe you were late because there was an accident if you were on time, right? So you're believing in the higher good, right? Seeing only the one force, always acting towards a higher good, okay? So moving right down the line, okay, we have 3D, denser energy. Denser energy. When you want to manifest, for example, muscles. When you want more muscles, that's denser energy. That takes a long time to get really ripped and shredded. Okay, this is actually a good metaphor. So slower manifestations when I'm clinging onto the 3D. But when I'm clinging onto the 5D, right? Okay, the higher energy, instant manifestations. So the difference between a higher energy is I trust the universe to guide me to my greater good, whether that be me getting the promotion or whether that be me staying where I am. I believe that the universe has taken care of everything coming forward to me, everything coming to me. So you believe in more so a higher good versus having the denser energy and just seeing everything for what it is. Because when you're already looking at everything out here in front of you, it's already been manifested. So if you're using obstacles in front of you to manifest what hasn't come, you're only going to manifest what you're already looking at. Versus, again, connecting to your higher self, right? You have an instant manifestation when you're connecting to more broader topics. Okay, we're gonna cut this up here. Check it out. So, 3D, the mind rules. The mind rules versus 5D, the heart rules. Okay, the mind rules. So instead of thinking about things, trying to think and work things out, there's a big difference when you're using your mind versus feeling in your heart and knowing. Your life changes, literally 180. Okay? What do we have here? Okay, we're getting down here. This is a weird angle. Man fears chaos, randomness, and unfairness. Okay? We're kind of tying back into man believes he's a victim. Okay? So if you're feeling that way, remember that's 3D. The 5D version is man believes in divine order. We've talked about that. Everything that happens is for a higher good, right? So you can already tell that 5D is more of a collective, more for a higher good, but don't get it twisted. You have to take care of yourself in order for you to take care of anyone else. So when you take care of yourself, you're able to think for a more higher good. And actually, when you start to take care of yourself, you start to realize that if it ain't for the higher good, then it ain't for me, right? Versus, again, the uncertainty, the randomness. Because, again, when life's rolling with you, when life's coming at you, you got to be ready to be ready. You got to be ready to be ready. And there's going to be little things that make you shift and pivot, again, to your higher self. We talked about that in the last video, okay? And then last but not least, guys, okay, scarcity mindset versus an abundant mindset, okay? I don't know if this can happen. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this just because that person's there and that person, they're kind of mean. Doesn't matter what's going to happen. I believe in guidance. I believe I am non-physical, God energy in flesh and blood. I believe that I have planted my seed and I am 10 toes down. I believe that I am fifth dimension. I believe that I am here, source energy flowing, being able to co-create and create any reality that I put my mind on. And as long as I believe and plant my seed, I will be where I want to be. And guys, that's the biggest difference between 5D and 3D. So if you notice that you have a lot more of these similarities, then you're probably on the right track. You're probably all the way over to 5D. And granted, we're 3D beings, and the only reason why we can have a 5D experience is because we're spiritual beings as well. So we're still going to be 3D, right? But the key is, this is it, the key is to use these 3D indicators whenever you feel like you're flowing and going through your day and you feel, oop, right? You use that to go, oh, shoot, I'm being my 3D self again. Now I know. Let me tap back into unity consciousness. Let me tap back into intuitive thinking. Let me go meditate, slow my mind down, and let me tap back into this 5D energy, because I promise you, once you're in this realm, you can't even make a decision to go back because you think this is too hard. You've already made that choice to be 5D, and here we are together. So we're going to do it together because there's strength in numbers, and we're going to co-create this reality together. So if you have any questions, leave your comments down below. Like the video if you felt the vibe. Subscribe to the channel if you like the vibe. And turn on the notification bell, because we're going to be dropping these suckers left and right. I appreciate you all. Forever out.